Hey, what's going on everybody? Chad Christian coming at you with another exciting video. Today I'm going to give you a comparison between the HP Spectre x360 with the Kaby Lake processor running an i7-7500U versus the MacBook Pro 13 2016 edition in space gray. So let's get into it. You guys have asked for it, so here it is. I'm going to break these down into several different sections. I'm going to star rate them 1 through 5, 5 being the highest. At the end we'll total up the scores and we'll see which one's the winner. So the first thing we want to talk about is the price. Now just a side note, I got the Best Buy version of the HP Spectre, which includes an i7 versus the i5, which is only $10.50 on HP.com's website. The model that I have here is the i7 with 256 gig storage, 8 gigs of RAM, and it's $1159.99. The MacBook here that we have is the MacBook Pro 13 2016 edition space gray. Same thing, 256 gig SSD and 8 gigs of RAM, and its starting price is at $14.99. So for the price on the HP, I give it 4.5 stars for the price point because it does include an i7 and it's a little bit more of a pro model. And for the price on the MacBook, I give it 3 stars because I think with the price point, this being a pro model, they should have provided a little bit more. Higher specs, more ports, etc. Operating system. The HP, of course, comes in with the Windows 10, which is just the home version. But the nice thing about it is it does include Cortana now, and Cortana does listen all the time, which is a little bit better than the Siri over here. And on the Mac is running Mac OS Sierra, which with this version has the integrated Siri command. So let's do a quick test here. What's the weather today?
Here's the forecast shows sun with a high of 64 and a low of 46.
Now the nice thing though that the Windows version can do that the MacBook can't do is we can just talk to it openly. Hey Cortana, is it going to rain tomorrow?
Yes, looks like it will. The forecast for tomorrow shows a 100.
Or Siri won't allow you to do that, but other than that you can do almost everything the same between them. So for both of those, I give them a 4 stars. Now with Windows, I'm giving it a little bit higher because it's integrated with Xbox. Plus you can unlock this system with the Hello camera, so Windows 10 makes it pretty nice with the biometric systems. And with the Mac OS, I'm giving it a 4 because you don't have to worry about viruses as much. It's nice and integrated with iMessage and it has a very clean interface. Now let's talk about the displays. The HP has a 13.3-inch 1920 by 1080 IPS LED panel and it has 320 nits. The display covers a full sRGB spectrum and 74% of the Adobe RGB. And over here on the Mac, this is a 13-inch 2560 by 1600 IPS panel with 227 ppi and 500 nits of brightness. So it's a lot brighter over here on the Mac. On the HP model, one thing that I wanted to note here is look at the white color balance on the Mac versus the HP. You can see right away that the Mac produces a nice white image, and on the HP it's more of a yellowish tint, which we see on a lot of the touchscreen panels. I really wish they would have made this a better white point, but it is what it is. You do get touchscreen. It is a 1080 display, which means that the battery life lasts a really long time, so not going to knock it too much. So the HP, I'm going to give it 4 stars because they did reduce the side bezels here. So they made that nice. It would have been a 4.5 if they would have been able to increase the brightness. I don't think it's bright enough panel, so I'm just going to give it a 4 stars. On the Mac, I'm going to give that 4.5 stars because they also reduced the bezels, which I love. It has amazing display color, so the color is extraordinary. As you can see, the colors pop on the screen, and with the 500 nits of brightness, it's one of the brightest panels out. Now let's move on to the sound. The HP has a quad stereo system, so it has 2 top firing speakers and 2 on the bottom that are downward facing, so that way if you have it in convertible mode you can also hear it. And this the sound is by Bang & Olufsen, so they also did a nice thing with the dynamic range and the way that the software is set up on it. On the Mac, you have your standard 2 top-facing firing stereo speakers, which sound nice and full, and it's probably the best sound system of any laptop that I've heard to date. So let's go ahead and do a test real quick just so you can hear what they both sound like. These are both set at 50% sound volume. No fan noise. Let me show you. And over on the Mac. No fan noise. Let me show you. Now, a side note on the Mac is I'm running software. It's called Boom 2. You can pick it up in the Apple Store. I want to say it's $9.99, which does increase the volume. Let me show you what it sounds like with the volume control turned off. So this is its natural sound at 50%. So let me show you what it sounds like in the exact same scenario. No fan noise. Let me show you. So you can see between the two sound systems, they both sound great. On the sound system for the HP, I'm going to give that a 5-star. I think it's fantastic the way that they did a quad sound like that. The top facing speakers and the bottom firing speakers, this sound system actually gets a little bit louder than the MacBook. The MacBook starts to distort at around 75 to 80% volume, so I think the sound on the HP is just a little bit better. But on the Mac, I'm also going to give that a 5-star because overall it has the best sound. So even though it starts to break a little bit, it sounds fuller, it has more bass. So between the two of them, these are the best two laptops you can get for sound. Let's move on to the processors. So even though these are the base models, like I said, I did get the Best Buy version, which has the Core i7. Now the nice thing with this model, and the reason why I think it was worth the extra $100, is the fact that this has the 7th generation Kaby Lake i7-7500U. So this is the latest and the greatest processor. And over on the MacBook, this MacBook has a 6th gen i5 Skylake processor. So I know the reason that Apple went with this version, and that was so they could keep the Iris GPU processor. Honestly, the way that the HD 620 runs, it runs video games right now that are, you know, AAA titles. Of course, you have to have them on lower frames or on lower resolutions to get the frames per second you want, but still the HD 620 is very impressive, and I'll leave a link below for those videos. So right now, between the two, it makes it really tough to decide which one I like more. I'm going to go with the Kaby Lake processor only because it's more future-proofed. It just came out. It's a little bit better on battery, and I really wish that MacBook would have done the same thing. I think they would have been impressed with the HD 620. I just don't know if they wanted to try to figure out the engineering in time to be able to get the 620 to work with their software. So on both ends of that spectrum, I'm going to have to edge out with the HP, and I'm going to give that one a 4.5 because of the i7, and I'm going to give the MacBook a 3.5. Next, let's look at battery life. Over here on the HP, we have a 58 watt-hour battery, which gives me around 8 to 9 hours of battery life, and that's with medium to moderate use, surfing the web, Netflix, you know, Instagram, social media, Twitter, things like that. Over on the Mac here has a 54.5 watt battery, and same thing on average, I can get around 8 to 9 hours. So I'm going to call these two a tie at 4.5 stars. Now, as far as performance goes, I know that we talked about the processors, which has, you know, a lot to do with the performance, but because these are both ultra light thin systems and you want the most power you can get, plus having battery life, plus having all the extra features, I'm going to give the HP a 5 just because of the i7U processor they put in there, and it's such a thin and light portable system. And on the Mac, I'm going to give it 4 stars for using last year's model with an Intel i5 processor. I wish they would have put in a quad or an i7 processor if they're going to call it the Pro model. I would have actually given this a 3.5 stars, but because they did choose to keep the i5 and the 6th generation processor. I'm gonna keep that with a 4-star because I know that they wanted that higher graphics performance processor in it. So right now, as it stands, this is our points and where we're at and who's winning. So the drives. The HP has a M2 SSD PCIe drive, which is the fastest of any Windows laptop that's out. This particular model has a Samsung PM951 drive, and over here on the Mac, this is a 256 PCIe. It has a read score of over 3,000 and a write score of 1,300. So on the HP side, I'm going to go ahead and give that 4.5 stars because it is the fastest drive out for any Windows laptop and it's upgradable. And over here on the Mac, I'm going to give that a 5 stars. It's the fastest we've ever seen on any laptop that's out right now. I wish it was upgradable, but it is what it is. Both fantastic drives. As far as the memory goes on both of these units, they both have 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a tie at 3.5 stars. I wish they both would have come in at 16 gigs of RAM. I think that's right now the sweet spot. And that's going to give you a longer life of the system. You're not going to have to worry as much because, as you know, over time, these programmers, they get greedy and they start using up more and more RAM on things they do. So just to future-proof the systems a little bit more, I wish they would have had 16 gigs of RAM. So again, both of them at 3.5 stars. Graphics. On both of these, they do have nice graphics cards. On the HP, of course, you're getting a little bit faster because it's newer. You're getting an Intel HD 620, which is a very capable system. It's you know, it plays about 95% of all games that are out there. Of course, you're going to have to run them at low resolution, turn off anti-aliasing. There's some things you're going to have to do, but overall, great display. On the Mac, I'm going to say that it's a little bit lower, even though the Intel Iris Graphics 540 they claim would be a little bit better. I don't think so. I think the way that the Kaby Lake is streamlined with the HT 620, the performance plus the battery life is just a better system. So in this case, I'm going to give the HP 4.5 stars and the Mac 3 stars. Now for the ports, the HP has 2 USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports and 1 USB 3 port and a headphone jack. And over on the Mac, you just get stuck with 2 USB-C ports and a 3.5mm headphone jack and no USB 3.0 ports for your old legacy style systems. So because of the fact that you can plug in pretty much anything you want onto the HP, I'm going to give that a 4 star. I would have given that a little bit higher had they included 2 USB 3s, which would have been nice, very convenient. Then we would have had our bases covered. But for that reason, I'm going to give it 4. And on the Mac, I'm only going to give that 3 stars because I think that if this is going to be, again, a pro model, you need to give us more than 2 USB-C ports. Had they given us 1 USB 3.0 port to go along with those USB-C ports, I think everybody would have been happy and that would have worked out better for everyone. So again, HP 4 stars, Mac 3 stars. Now for size and portability, the HP is 0.54 inches or 1.37 centimeters tall and 2.85 pounds or 1.29 kilograms. And over on the Mac, that's 0.59 inches or 1.49 centimeters tall and weighs 3.02 pounds or 1.37 kilograms. So for both of these units, I'm going to give them a tie at 4.5 stars. Build quality. Usually the MacBook always takes the build quality of any system that I've ever tested it up against. But in this case, I think the HP beats it. The reason that is because both of them have all aluminum build. Both of them have no flexing in the keyboard or the display. They're both very sturdy and dependable, but the difference is this is a convertible. So for a lighter system, which has a faster processor, battery just as long, the build is just as strong and sturdy, but it includes a convertible on it. So this has multiple modes, this has just one mode. It's laptop or nothing. And you say, oh, well, how does that make sense? Well, sometimes if you're stuck in a room and you can't just carry this thing around and type on it and use it, this one you can. So in work case studies, this one I can flip around into tablet mode, hold it with one hand, and use the on-screen keyboard. So The fact that they're both beautifully designed, they both look nice, they're both heavy, all aluminum cases. I'm going to give the HP 5 stars, and for the first time ever, the Mac 4.5 stars. So it's the first time ever for me build quality has been beaten by another machine. So this is where we're at with our points now. Keyboard. The keyboard on the HP is nice and satisfying, even though it has a small key travel. This one only has 1.3 millimeters of travel, but it's very satisfying. You know when you're clicking on it. Feels very good to type on for a long time. Over here on the Mac, this is the Butterfly 2 switches, which they have improved greatly. They're a little bit more clicky, a little more tactile, but I still prefer the typing experience on the HP over a long period of time. So for that reason, I'm going to give the HP 4 and the Mac a 3.5. I wish they would take this style of key and just give it just a little, even if it was 1 millimeter of travel with those butterfly keys. I think that would be the perfect keyboard. So HP 4, Mac 3.5 stars. Now, as far as the trackpad, everybody knows that the Mac has the greatest trackpad in the world right now. So this one's kind of a no-brainer. The HP is a nice trackpad. You can see that it's also a larger trackpad than it normally is. Right now, with the way that this sits, it feels good. It's glass. It's nice and responsive. But the only thing on here, and I did take away half a star, is it has an annoying noise on the left side, like a build quality, when you tap on it. Where of course you don't get that on this system. So for that reason alone, on the trackpad, I'm going to give this 4 stars. And over here, this is a larger trackpad than what they've done before, but it has that great haptic feedback system to it. No trackpad in the world is as good as the Apple's, period, hands down. This is a 5 star. Now, as far as the camera goes, these are both terrible cameras. Let's just get that out of the way. Neither one of them are good. They're both just regular business class cameras. They don't have, you know, a beautiful streaming style camera that, you know, you could brag about. They both just get the job done. But the HP is a little bit better of a camera. I have no idea why Apple wants to do this to us every year. We use this for FaceTime, calling. I mean, this should be the best camera on the planet, period, for Apple. I don't know what they're doing with that. You know, they push FaceTime so much between all their different devices. It works great. Why not give us a camera that works well? So in this case, I'm going to give the HP a 4 because it has the biometric IR camera system, so you can log in with Windows Hello. And over here on the potato camera for the Mac, I'm going to give it 3 stars. Now for bonus extra features. Which system has more extra features? Well, obviously the HP does. You've got a touchscreen. You have the convertible of it, so you can use it in different modes. But the one thing that HP screwed up on in this one is no dedicated pen support. I have no idea why they did that. There's no digitized pen. There's no pen you can buy for it. There's no Wacom technology, nothing. So while some of the Yoga lines and the X1s and all the other beautiful laptops that HP has out there, why is there no pen support for it? I don't know. That would have taken this laptop right over the edge with the fact that Windows 10 loves to have, you know, writing on everything. You can write an Edge, you can write in your notes, so what happens? Nope, we don't get it with the HP. Thanks, HP. Other than that, this would have been a 5-star system, but because they didn't, I'm going to give it 4 stars, just because at least you can do everything else minus pen support. Over on the Mac, tell you right out of the gate, this is 3 stars. The reason that is, there are no extra bells and whistles. This is the same Mac that we've been getting for the last 6 years. Nothing has changed. Yes, we get the same old, yeah, it's faster, lighter, brighter, better display, but isn't it always like that? Isn't that just technology in general? Don't you get that no matter what you do to it? So, no. Now, if this had the touch bar and the ID sensor, that would be something else. But guess what? That's also going to increase the price of this up to $17.99. So this would not be apples to apples at all, so that wouldn't even make sense to compete these two against each other at that price point. Could buy almost two of these for the same price as one of these. So who's our overall winner? Which one would I pick? Which one, if I had to have one system for every day to do everything, photo editing, work, gaming, social media, if the one device that I left this house with and that's all I could ever have would be, it would be the HP. And I love my Macs. These are great solid devices. I've been using them for years along with every other Windows system out there. The HP is your overall winner, and let me show you the scores and the breakdown and why that is. If this MacBook was closer to the price point, if this was a $1,200 MacBook versus the $1,150 HP, this would be tough call. This would be a very tough call. They're both great systems, but the problem is, as soon as you get to the $1,500 mark on this system, it just completely does not allow them to be in the same class anymore. I mean, now you're basing a $1,500 13-inch laptop on probably what this system's going to come out with an HP Spectre x360 15-inch model, probably with 4K display. Everything you see here for the same price as this one. And obviously with that, you know who would be the winner again on that cost. So if these were both the same price point, that would be tough. Then we would just say, well, I like Mac, I like Windows. But today, for the cost of this system, I can get this system and hell, a used phone to go with it. Or I can get this system, tons of software to equal this system. So the way that they are now, the overall winner is the HP. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, make sure you subscribe and hit that thumbs up. Let me know down in the comments below if there's anything you guys would like to see, or if you have any questions. I always love your comments. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next video.